Ladies and gentlemen, it has finally happened. Nvidia GPUs are dropping to MSRP levels and there are some mega deals on the used market. One card we haven't discussed on this channel due to its insane markup over the last year is the RTX 5070 Ti, but that changes today. We got our hands on this stunning all-white Gigabyte Aero card and we will be testing it across a huge amount of different titles ranging from competitive shooters such as Fortnite, Marvel Rivals, and Call of Duty to sim games such as iRacing, Formula 1, and Microsoft Flight Simulator, and finally impossible to run AAA titles such as Cyberpunk, Black Myth Wukong, and Doom the Dark Ages to answer one question. Is this actually a bona fide 4K card and should you grab it at MSRP or should you wait for the Nvidia Super Series to launch? But mate, we have the best PC building dogs to ever live along with Pepe the Frog and his wife just sitting here twiddling their paws. So before we get into testing, we gotta build a ballin' PC and see whether or not you can flip a 5070 Ti gaming machine for insane profits. But before we get into the mega deals we got on some of these PC parts and introduce our stunning all-white case and AIO combo sent over by our friends at DarkFlash, let's first introduce the graphics card, and it is this beautiful all-white Gigabyte Aero OC 16GB 5070 Ti card. I am on record though that Gigabyte makes the best all-white PC products, but be prepared to pay the white tax for this bad boy. While there are a ton of models of 5070 Ti's at the MSRP of $750 in the US of A right now, this baby will set you back $850, but just look at this thing, mate. She may be a thick 3-fan design, but she is beautiful. It's about 6/10 the size of our wiener Hank, larger than Frank, but smaller than female Pepe, and there are a few different 2-slot 5070 Ti's which cool this GPU just fine, so this thing is going to run colder than Superman's Ice Fortress. Now, the 5070 Ti was considered a 4K GPU at launch, and it got great reviews if it could be found at the MSRP of $750, but this thing was pushing $1,000 when it first came out, so everyone was pooping all over it. But now that you can find it for the MSRP, should you buy it? Well, to answer that question, we are going to have to build an insane gaming PC to chuck this thing into, and given we got absolutely cooked on the price of the GPU, we are going to somehow have to make up for that, and make up for that we did. Don't you worry about that, buddy. Starting off with this insane bundle Hank found on Newegg about 2 months ago, we have 32GB of DDR5 RAM, 2TB of Samsung Evo storage, and the Crescendo, a beautiful all-white Gigabyte B650E Elite X AX motherboard in a combo deal off Newegg for an incredible $257 before tax. Now, we are on record of hating Gigabyte motherboards with our soul. We don't have a huge amount of problems with motherboards, but when we do, it's always Gigabyte. But it's hard to hate on something this stunning, completely toolless board with 3 M.2s, a great rear I.O. with a ton of USB 3s, and aesthetically just amazing. Look at the Rainbow Aorus logo. Mate, I am going to have to change my pants after this. But enough glazing the Gigabyte board. The other mega deal which is saving us from getting completely obliterated on the GPU is all thanks to Micro Center, and we got the best gaming CPU on the market, the Ryzen 7 9800X3D, usually around $460 online on Amazon, and we got it open box for $365 dues. Incredible value, 8 cores, 16 threads, and of course the 3D V-Cache allows you to destroy even the most intensive CPU tiles while making flipping this thing a breeze as people yearn for 3D chips badly. These things are always popping up at my local Micro Center for this price, and we just keep buying them because it can't be beat. If you are looking for the best bang for buck CPU though, get the Ryzen 5 9600X, about $250 cheaper, and actually pairs quite well with the 5070 Ti. Hell, it can pair with a 5090. The RAM that came with this bundle is the Vengeance DDR5 32GB 6000 mega transfers per second kit. It looks great. It has ARGB but has a CL of 36, mate. All of the bundles that come on Newegg, Micro Center, and Amazon always throw in RAM with timings of around CL 36 to 40, mate. But I guarantee 99.99% of you would not notice a difference between CL 30 and CL 36 timing while playing any game unless you have MSI Afterburner open and intently follow the FPS. So if you can get a great deal on RAMs with CL 36 timings like this one, just get it, mate. Don't listen to those sweaty PC elitists on Reddit. And finally, the M.2. Usually we throw 1TB in unless our client wants more, but this deal came with 2TB of Samsung 990 Evo. What a deal! We avoid Samsung because they are incredibly overpriced for a pretty unnoticeable difference. If you need a 2TB drive, just get any Gen 4 drive over 5,000 megabytes per second for around $90 to $100 off Amazon and you'll be set. This board is completely toolless, so a little wiggle of this latch and the heatsink comes right off. Take the protective sticker off, throw the drive in, throw it back on, and Nicki Minaj massages your old mama, you are good to go.
Very nice.
So with that, the board is complete, and just look at the PC building team we have assembled right here. We have Hank, Frank's butt, Pepe the Frog.
What is that?
His wife, whose name I don't know. Let me know what it is down in the comments. This stunning Gigabyte motherboard packed with 2 terabytes of storage in the 9800X 3D.
Nice.
And our incredibly overpriced but beautiful 5070 Ti. But what is this bad boy case that everything is leaning on? Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the DarkFlash DS900 full ATX PC case for a mind-blowing $85 off Amazon after redeeming this 10% coupon. DarkFlash is a huge fan of Hank and Frank and sent this baby over to us, and we gladly accepted because we have built with them a few times in the past, and their cases always sold quickly. For example, this micro ATX DarkFlash case with a 7800 XT actually sold in less than a day for us a couple of months ago, so when they reached out, we were very happy to work with them. It comes with 4 PWM fans, 3 intake reverse blade on the side, and 1 exhaust at the back, a great front I/O with USB-C and 2 USB ports, along with an LED switch you can hook up to an ARGB controller, and plenty of room in the back to shove your cables. But mate, they didn't just send us the case, they also sent over their LCD Aero, which can be purchased off Amazon for around $75 after using this 10% coupon. This display gives you CPU temps and utilization along with the pump and RAM speeds. And we finally have a budget LCD cooler rivaling thermal rights, which is what we love to see. Thanks for sending it across, DarkFlash. The link for both of these is down below, but we need to see what the temps look like when we do the benchmarks before we keep glazing DarkFlash, so stick around for that to find out. Last but not least, we have this all-white PSU down the bottom, so Hank has finally gone with something other than a PVA, right?
Nope.
Right?
Oh, hell no!
Wrong. No, he hasn't. Sorry to get you excited. Hank went with the Apivia Prestige 850 watt, 80 plus gold, tier C on the PSU tiers list, and it comes with PCIe 5 and ATX 3 support, which we will need to connect our 5070 Ti. This can be found on Amazon for an incredible $75, mate. You are not going to find a PSU of this quality for $75 or under. If you can, let me know down in the comment below, but Hank bets all of his toys that you can't. Alright, mate, we have wasted enough time on this PC build. We've got female Pepe in here ready to throw the board in, but we need to go and do the benchmark, so a quick clap of the hands and boom, baby! Female Pepe has transitioned into a man, and this board is all hooked up and ready to go. Let's get this ugly R-Frog out of the way and throw on the thermal paste. We are using the thermal grease that came with DarkFlash, and they have given us a lot, so you better believe we are using all of it, baby. Just squeeze the entire thing out and look at that. You do not need that much thermal paste to cool your CPU, but Hank likes to get greasy up in this beer. For God's sakes, remove the protective cover off the AAO pump, or McLaren will force Oscar Piastri to give his position back to Lando after they screwed up his pit stop. Oh, wait a minute, they already did that because they want Lando to win so badly, so let's put this sticker back on and watch this computer burn to the ground. DarkFlash has great instructions for installing the mounting hardware, but if you have any questions, ask me below in the comments. Throw the pump head on, screw it down each side little by little, and then the LCD screen attaches magnetically, so just pop it on and let's get this party started, baby. And now it's time for everyone's favorite segment, GPU insertion, and this one is going to be tough because this is one fat R GPU with a PH. Look at this monstrosity. Hank does like them chunky though. Give me 2 firm handshakes if you like them large and in charge, son.
Oh, hell no!
Yep, I knew it, you dirty bugger. Locate the top PCIe slot and just yam this Titanic-sized GPU in with the force of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Awesome camera work from Frank, focusing on my filthy arm hair during the insertion. What do you think, Hank?
You disgust me.
Insert the 600 watt PCIe cable that comes standard with this PSU. Make sure it's in tight because these things are known to melt if it's not. The GPU does come with an adapter which is more safe, but it looks terrible and I'd rather this thing explode than look good. And here we are, and this thing is looking absolutely incredible. It truly looks like it was built by Picasso, and the whole team is here to watch it light up. There is already a tiny bit of ARGB on the board, and the GPU is sagging harder than Snoop Dogg, so we are going to have to throw a sag bracket in later, but now is not the time for that. Hank, give me 2 more handshakes, and let's turn this thing on.
That's what I'm talking about.
And look at that, Maui, get out of the way, sausage. I know this is your channel, but we can't even see the PC. All right, that's better. Just sit there for a tiny bit, little boy, and we'll give you some chimpkin, and this thing is looking amazing. It doesn't have any infinity fans, which is absolutely crushing my soul. DarkFlash, start throwing infinity fans into your case and we will use them exclusively. Even still, the fans they have included are quite nice and even have this patterning to the side of them. We threw 3 fans down the bottom that were just sitting around our house because why the hell not? The LCD screen on the AIO looks great. The Gigabyte Aero card is stunning as per usual, and the amount of ARGB coming off these fans would end a Victorian era person's life.
What?
Now, the elephant in the room though, and no, I'm not talking about this elephant-sized GPU, is the sag, mate. It's pretty horrific for this 3-fan monolithic structure, and if I don't install a sag bracket, I will get destroyed in the comments, so here it is right here, mate. We got this off Amazon. It actually comes with a pack of 2 and connects directly with PWM fans down below, which is great. I've linked it in the description, and here is the sag beforehand, and here is the result after. Great stuff and easy to install, so just do it, mate. Now it's time to assess the cost of this baby, and thanks to the Newegg bundle and the incredible deal we got on the CPU, we built this bad boy for $1,732, which is still very expensive. But if you look at the price of pre-built 5070 Ti's with 9800X 3Ds, they are around $2,000, so we might be able to snag a $200 to $250 profit on this thing. But it'll likely take a long time to sell, but the question is it worth it to pay $1,700 to build this yourself? For these specs, yeah, I think so, although you can build a 5070 Ti machine for much cheaper. Given we want to run this bad boy at 4K, which makes games much less CPU intensive, we could easily switch out the 9800X 3D with a 9600X, which costs on average around $160 brand new. The 9600X is also extremely power efficient, so you then wouldn't need an AIO and could throw on an $18 air cooler from ID Cooling or Thermalright. And of course, we paid the Y tax for this GPU, $100 more than the MSRP of $750 for the 5070 Ti, which is currently available on Amazon, Newegg, and Best Buy. So if we took all of this into account, we could have actually built this thing for $1,345, which is crazy value for a 5070 Ti build. But mate, if my mom had balls, she'd be my dad. So it's time to answer the question, can this $1,732 Buccarino PC actually be considered a 4K beast, or have you been lied to by Jensen and his cronies? So before we start these benchmarks off, this machine at 1440p is an actual beast. It can run all of these games with ease, and I've linked benchmarks down below with that. But if we are paying $750 to $850 for a GPU, in my opinion, we should be able to play games at 4K without using frame generation, which still increases input delay on most games. So all of our benchmarks are done at 4K without frame gen, but we do use DLSS for most, but with it set to quality, and DLSS 4 at these settings still looks great. But let me know down below if you hate these settings and you refuse to play anything with any upscaling. To start off these benchmarks, we are playing the hardest game to run of all time, Waterpark Simulator. 4K, everything cranked to the max, path tracing set to ultra, ray tracing set to Devil's Nectar settings. And looking at MSI Afterburner, we are capped at 120 frames per second, mate. Unbelievable stuff by the 5070 Ti to be able to play this game at such high graphics. Waterpark Simulator costs $12 on Steam, and we are addicted to this, and we'll be starting a series over in our gaming channel later today. It's very chaotic and has ragdoll physics, so every time you go down a slide or jump off a diving board, you get destroyed. Go check it out once we post the video, mate. It should be later on in this evening. Ignore it if you hate Hank. The video will be linked down below and will also be linked at the end of this video once it's available. Okay, that's enough of a 30-year-old dude begging you to watch him play a $12 Waterpark Simulator game with his wiener. Time for the real benchmarks, and we are going with GTA 5, but the enhanced edition. Now, last week I did make a bogan blunder. I benchmarked this game on a 50-50 and thought I set it to 4K balls to the wall, but this fella in the comments pointed out that the 80 FPS that we were getting on the 50-50 didn't seem correct, and he was right. We actually only had it set to the high graphics and ray tracing setting when there is actually an ultra setting, so I apologize for that, mate. But today we have set this baby up properly to the maximum settings, and it looks and plays great. An average of 6-7 FPS with great 1% lows. This remastered edition looks amazing, and the temps on the CPU average average around 50 degrees, and the GPU is around 60 degrees, so phenomenal stuff there, mate. And the AIO by DarkFlash is doing its job, but this is a 10-year-old game. It's time to push things to the limit with a more modern game, and we're starting with Black Myth Wukong, a very demanding game, but unfortunately, we are a broke boy, and we are using the free benchmarking software like a scrub. But we have it set to the highest graphics of cinematic and high ray tracing, but with DLSS set to quality, and mate, it doesn't look great. I mean, it looks phenomenal, but the FPS is pretty terrible. Average of 30 with 1% lows of 15. That wouldn't be a good playing experience, but if we turn ray tracing off, we get an average of 54 frames per second, and it runs much more smoothly. So balls to the wall ray tracing on the 5070 Ti isn't looking feasible, but with ray tracing off, Bob's your uncle, mate. Go ahead and play Black Myth Wukong on these settings. Next up, Cyberpunk. We just paid $69 for this game so we could benchmark it. I've never played it in my life and don't plan on playing it because I don't really like single player games unless it's Waterpark Simulator. But we spent the $69 because that's how much I care for all of you. The graphics are set to ray tracing ultra with DLSS set to quality, and we turned path tracing on, and I can finally see what all the buzz is about this game. It looks phenomenal in one graphics setting under balls to the wall, and it runs surprisingly smooth at 4K, an average of 40 frames per second, but the 1% low is 31, so it's extremely smooth. Once again, you can turn ray tracing off and it'll get much higher FPS values, but you don't need to. It ran really smooth and looked great. Good job, 5070 Ti. Moving on, and we are going to keep making things progressively harder, starting with Doom: The Dark Ages. Not really our cup of tea for a game, but a demanding thing to run. We set it to nightmare settings with path tracing on and DLSS set to quality, mate. To be honest, it didn't run great, around 29 frames per second with 1% lows of around 19. Didn't feel that stuttery, but I was still pretty underwhelmed. If we turn path tracing off, it takes you above 60 frames per second, but dude, $750 for a GPU and you can't use its features in a single player game at 4K? Hard pass on that, mate. If you thought Doom was hard to run, it's time to turn things up to 11 with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Poon. An extremely hard game to run and extremely demanding on the VRAM. We have it set to very ultra, so one under the highest settings. DLSS set to quality, and it actually ran superbly. Basically locked at 47 frames per second. 1% lows were excellent, so very smooth. And as I fist fight all of these fellas, look at the VRAM usage, mate. It's locked in at 16 gigabytes. That is incredible. This is actually saying that if you waited for a super version of this card and added more VRAM, you would unlock more performance on this. So if all you do is grind Indiana Jones like no one else's business, then maybe you should wait for the Super Series to come out and get more VRAM. But in saying that, the game still felt great. But if you thought Indiana Jones was hard to run, nah, mate. Time for the game that will bring a 5090 to its knees, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. We set it to high-end settings, so one below the highest with DLSS set to quality, taking off from New York Airport. But mate, it was a stuttery mess, unfortunately. It averaged over 40 frames per second, which is great for flight sim, but the 1% lows were in the 10s. It was still playable, but if you're looking to be a flight sim content creator and want a seamless experience at 4K with high resolution and no frame gen artifacts, the 5070 Ti unfortunately won't fit the bill. Now let's move on to some competitive shooters, starting with Call of Duty Warzone Resurgence, mate. The graphics are cranked to extreme 4K with DLSS set to quality, and I was pleasantly surprised by this. Very playable, over 100 frames per second at the highest graphics settings at 4K is good for this bad boy, and you can tell it plays well because we are actually eliminating people. Unfortunately, if you play with randoms, you're gonna have a bad time. One dude quits halfway through while the other two combined don't reach my eliminations. Thanks for that, friends. Way to ruin the 5070 Ti's 4K victory on this bad boy. Next up, the final, slowly becoming one of our favorite games. We have everything set to highest graphics with DLSS set to quality, and she was running smoother than Will Smith's wife's head. Over 110 frames per second, great 1% lows. We chose to play as the light manlet with a pistol, and we are once again being an absolute menace. I'm actually put on a good team of randoms for once. We destroy everyone in our path and win the game on the way to having the highest amount of eliminations and highest damage in the game. We are a sweaty finals virgin, and the 5070 Ti has carried us to 4K glory. Moving on to a game you can run on a potato at this point, Rainbow Six Siege X. 4K graphics cranked, no upscaling, and well over 200 frames per second. It ran great. I wouldn't recommend dropping $1,700 on a PC if all you do is play Rainbow Siege. But if that's what you want to do, you can play it balls to the wall, no problem. I get the final elimination of the game on a way to a 3-1 victory, but finished second as NBA Chris has not left his room in 4 years grinding this thing. 9 eliminations, mate. Save some for the rest of us, champ. Alright, time to move on to the 2 games that define my existence on YouTube, getting a win and the MVP in Marvel Rivals, and then getting a victory royale in Fortnite. And mate, we failed in both of these, but does the 5070 Ti fail at 4K? Well, starting with rivals, DLSS set to ultra quality and the graphics set to high, and we are getting a superb 97 frames per second average with 1% low in the 80s. Yeah, this thing didn't fail, mate. Game ran smooth, looked amazing, a dream to play on, but unfortunately my team sucked donkey meat. Some sweaty 10-year-old on the other team had 31 eliminations with Doctor Strange, but we locked up the SVP on our team, but I can't finish on that, mate. How about we turn everything to ultra with DLSS set to performance but frame generation on at 4K? Well, 240 frames per second, incredible stuff. This is one of the few games you can play with frame generation on, and input delay doesn't seem to be a problem for some reason. So if you have a 4K 240 FPS monitor, the 5070 Ti will work great, but I'm guessing you'd probably also own a Ferrari at that point and likely would have a gold-plated 5090. But can we get the MVP on these settings? No, we can't. Star-Lord edges us out, 21 eliminations to our 19, so close, but no cigar, mate. But we will take the win. Moving on to Fortnite, and we had been on a roll getting wins in these benchmarks over the past few videos. We even got one with the 50-50, but it was painfully obvious that we were being placed in bot lobbies. Today, we finally bit the bullet and purchased this Hank Hill skin to celebrate Hank's victories over the past few games. And I think Fortnite took that as us being a sweaty virgin and dropped us with some actual talented 12-year-olds, because it was not an easy lobby, mate. We were playing at 4K performance mode, DirectX 12, so everything's set to low, but epic view distance, and it ran great, but it is Fortnite after all. 270 frames per second, great 1% low, smooth as a cucumber, and we get to the top 10 before some sweaty dude with a minigun comes and takes us out. Great stuff, mate. Our streak is ruined and my life is over. I was pretty devastated by this, and I needed to go on something that I could actually win at, and someone in the comments last week asked why I don't benchmark racing games, and they are right. We built this sim rig months ago, and it's just gathering dust in a corner, so maybe we can get a win on that thing at 4K with the 5070 Ti. I start with iRacing, our favorite sim racing game by far, but it is absolute chaos when you run in the rookie series, which is what we're doing today. The graphics are cranked at 4K. We are in the Mazda at Rudskogen, which is a notoriously hard track. We qualified 4th out of 16 people and avoid all of the idiots at the start of the race. The white flag comes out and we are battling for a podium, and this dude gets fenced trying to cover his racing line, and thankfully we don't get taken out by him. We race this pink Mazda right to the end, but we can't get past him, and we finish the race with 0 incident points in 4th place on rookies, which is an absolute miracle. We get 62 iRacing points, which is great, but only 0.08 safety rating, which is a joke. So with no win or MVP, it's time to end things on a high note. Formula 1 25, racing as Oscar Piastri at Bahrain with graphics set to 4K, DLSS set to quality and ray tracing on but path tracing off. We are starting 5th, and as good as the graphics looked, it's not realistic because Yuki Tsunoda is starting 1st, mate. What is this nonsense? Despite this, we average 60 frames per second. It's running very smooth. We make minced meat of the Ferrari drivers earlier, get the fastest lap, and on the final lap, we save our battery, overtake Yuki, and take Piastri home for another victory. Great stuff, and I think this proves that Oscar Piastri is the future world champion of 2025 when it's all said and done this year. Fight me in the comments if you don't agree below. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen can take a hike. So in conclusion, is the 5070 Ti a 4K card, and should you pick it up for $750? Meh, it's a great card, but $750 is a lot of money, and with frame gen and DLSS, this thing will play most games at 4K, but you saw it struggled on some of the heavy hitters when we only use DLSS set to quality and don't use frame generation. The Super Series will likely be out early next year with more performance and higher VRAM, and will likely push the price of these cards even lower, so if you can wait, I would definitely do that, but if you can't, the best 4K option without needing frame generation is the RTX 5080, which can be purchased brand new at MSRP for $1,000 right now. I wouldn't pay $1,000 for a 5080 at the moment, but at least in my area, there are cards available on Facebook Marketplace for under MSRP, and heck, we just purchased an open box 5080 from Micro Center for $900, so if you're willing to pay $750 for a card, I am guessing $150 wouldn't be a huge jump for you, and if you want to see us do a benchmark video and review the RTX 5080 for $1,000, let me know down in the comments below. Otherwise, get out of here, mate. Me and the weenie love ya. Goodbye.